This is Mr. Precella, and today we're going to be factoring trinomials, sort of reviewing how to factor. But before we begin, I want to start off by just sort of jogging your memory about foiling. When we multiply two binomials, let's suppose we have this. I'm going to review some foiling first. We have this 5x plus 2 times 3x plus, let's say, 4. To multiply binomials have two terms. 1, 2, 1, 2. Terms are separated with pluses and minuses. So let's see. Multiplying first, outer, inner, last. When I multiply these first two terms, I get 5x times 3x. That's 15x squared plus, let's do the outer terms. 5x times 4, that would be a 20x. And the inner, 2 times 3x, 6x. And then finally, the last two terms, 2 times 4, 8. So that was first, outer, inner, and last. Now we're not really finished here because we can combine this outer and inner term here, right? So we would have what, a 15, our final answer would be a 15x squared. And then is that going to be a 26x? 20x plus 6x? Is that 20 apples plus 6 apples? 26 apples plus 8. Okay, let's do another one here. So let's try this one. Here's another example. Let's see. 4x minus 3 times 2x plus 7. So first, 4x times 2x, 8x squared. Outer, 4x times 7, that's a 28x. Inner, is that a minus 6x? And then last, minus 21. Well, let's see. We can still combine some like terms, can't we? The outer and inner we can combine. So we have 8x squared, and then 28x minus 6x. That's a 22x. And then minus 21. So once again, first, outer, inner, last. Now you might notice, now what's up with the colors? Well, what I'm trying to show with the colors is that the outer and inner terms combine together to give this middle term. The outer and inner combine to give the middle term on both of these. Okay? So what we're going to be doing when we're factoring is going backwards. Factor trinomials, oops, the lights keep flipping off in this room, so if it goes black for a second, it's just the lights flipping off, being crazy. Motion detector, unless there's a lot of movement, motion detector's thinking that no one's in here and cuts it off. So, continuing on, if we are talking about going backwards here, given this trinomial, how do we go back and fill this in? So that's what we mean by factoring. And I want to make a few observations. if we were going to start here and go backwards, this first term you get from these first two terms here. So these two terms have to multiply together to give the 8x squared. The last terms, the negative 3 and the positive 7, have to multiply together to give that last term. So how would we go about going backwards? That's what we're going to be doing here. Your answers are going to have two sets of parentheses. Look at these examples. Factor 2r squared plus 9r plus 9. Our answer is going to have two set of parentheses if it's factorable. Sometimes the stuff isn't even factorable, and we might see one of those before it's all over. Okay? And if a trinomial isn't factorable, you can either say not factorable or prime, just like prime numbers have no factors other than one in itself. Okay? So let's make some generalizations. If you're going backwards here, if you're going to start off with 8x squared plus 22x minus 21, or 15x squared plus 26x plus 8, and you're going to go backwards to the two sets of parentheses, there's something about this second sign here, okay? I'm always going to assume this first number's positive. That's a sensible assumption. We'll discuss why I say that probably later on in the semester, or maybe later on in another class, or in another class meeting. And so this is the first sign, and that's the second sign, okay? On that, I'm going to make a little table. If the second sign is a plus, then in the factored form, you're going to have 2 of the first sign. Is this showing up there? Let me see. Oh, there. Now, why am I saying that? If the second sign is plus 2 of the first sign, like right here, there's a plus. If we were going backwards, what sort of numbers multiply together to give a positive? Well, either 2 pluses or 2 minuses. How do you decide? Look at the first sign. Both of these have to be pluses if we're going to have a plus 26 here. If we'd had a minus 26, then both of those signs would have to be negative. When I'm factoring and that second sign is a plus, I fill the signs in immediately, because I know they're either both pluses or both minuses. Now, if the second sign is a minus, like right here, negative 21, well, there's only one way two things can multiply together to give a negative. One of the numbers has to be negative and one of them positive. So if the second sign is a minus, the factored form is going to have 1 plus and 1 minus. Is that pink showing? Okay. In order to have a negative 21, the 3 and 7, one of them has to be positive, one negative. Now, if this is the case, I'll wait to fill them in. I don't immediately fill them in. Why is that? Well, because you don't know where the plus goes and where the minus goes. If you want, you could just guess plus minus, and then if you get the signs wrong later, switch them, okay? A lot of people do it that way. Now for the last column, how do we get the outer and inner, how do we get that middle term right here? How to get middle term from outer and, that's a little and sign, inner. How do we get that? Well, up here, the 20 and 6, you're adding together to get 26. You add them. Here, if the second sign is minus, then you have a positive and a negative, so you're subtracting. Uh-oh, lights are going off like crazy today. This is ridiculous. Subtract. Now, let's do an example. I'll just make up one right now. For example, let's suppose we want to factor x squared plus 5x plus 6. How do I go about factoring that? Well, I'm going to draw my two sets of parentheses. And here should multiply together to give x. These first x squared, these first two places. I also notice that the second sign is plus, so the factor form is going to have two of the first signs, and both of these will be plus and plus. Now, the only thing I can put here and here that'll multiply together to give an x squared is x times x. Now the last two positions should multiply together to give 6. So what I think about here is, what are the numbers that multiply together to give 6? Well, there's 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Well, you're going to have to make this thing work out. Which pair of numbers, if I put here and here, will give me the outer and inner terms that add together to get a 5x? Well, a 2 and a 3. Let me check this by foiling it out. The first terms I'm going to just FOIL out in my head. X times x is x squared. Now what I'm doing right here, this is the outer. X times 3 is 3x. And then here the inner. 2 times x is 2x. Do those add together to give me a 5x? Yes. So what I'm doing here is the outer and inner term. Remember years ago in 1992, I had a student tell me, you're just making these things work out. It was a hostile student. I never have hostile students anymore. But I remember the student saying, in a hostile way, you're just making these things work out. The students laughed, and I thought, oh, poor thing, let me try to diffuse this. And I was like, yes, exactly. That's a brilliant statement. I'm going to remember that to say in the future. I'm making them work out. Why did I not put a 1 and 6 there instead of a 2 and 3? If I put a 1 and 6, when you FOIL it out, you're not going to be getting a 5x. So let's try another. So there's that answer. X plus 2 times x plus 3. You have x squared. You have a 6. And then 2x plus 3x is 5x. Let's try this one. You might think, oh wait, it's the same thing. X squared plus 5x minus 6. So we're thinking, well, it's the same thing. Oh my gosh. Well, how does it differ from the previous one? Well, there's really only one thing different. This second sign is a minus. We're going to need this number and this number to multiply together to give a negative. So that means it can't be positive times positive or negative times negative. if the second sign is a minus, the factored form has 1 plus and 1 minus. So instead of putting plus and minus in right now, I'm going to wait to fill it in. But I know how to get started. In the first term, x times x. Now, numbers that multiply together to give 6 are still 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Just remember that there's going to be a plus and a minus in there. I'm going to have to fill it in a moment. So which pair of numbers can I put in there so that when I'm subtracting the outer and inner, I'll get this middle term? Well, the 2 and 3 wouldn't work. If I subtracted those, I'm not going to get a 5. So, here I was adding them. So, what if I try the 1 times 6? Now, let me do my little marks for the outer and inner. Here I have 6x. There I have 1x. If I subtract those, the 1x and 6x, I sure get a 5x. So how do I need to arrange the plus and minus? If I want a positive 6x, a positive 5x, the 6 would need to be positive and the 1 minus, a negative. So there it is, x minus 1 times x plus 6. Now, let me take a short break right now to go see if I can see why the lights keep cutting off so quickly. And we'll continue this and do some problems, more examples in a moment. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll be right back for part 2.